In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these super cute winter hats. Now, believe it or not, these are actually all the same pattern. I just used different yarn. And so therefore they kind of look different, don't they? But this pattern is the exact same pattern as this hat. It's just different yarn. So I always love doing that. If you haven't watched my previous videos, I love just to kind of do the same project, but with different yarn. Or even in this case, I have a, a smaller pom pom. And then on this one, I have kind of this jumbo pom pom. So, it's just kind of fun to experiment, fun to play around. And today I am yet again going to use a different yarn, but same pattern. So today, look at this. Oh my God, I love this. So I have this big white jumbo pom pom. That's going to be the top of the hat. And then I have this gradient yarn for the hat itself. Now this yarn is a little thinner than all the yarn I've used so far for these hats. This is a bulky 4. And so, not bulky, it's just this medium 4. And so I'm gonna have to adjust my stitches and the needles that I'm using to make this hat. So just so you know, as you're making your hat, depending on, how thick the yarn is, how bulky it is, it's going to change the number of stitches you cast on, and how many rows that you end up doing the brim at, because obviously it's different thickness, and so therefore the number may change based off of what I'm going to do here today. Even this brim, it's about almost 2 inches long on each of these, but they have different numbers of rows. Like this only has 7 rows to make this brim, whereas this one has 9. So again, you can adjust as you go, depending on how tall you want the brim to be, how long you want the hat to be, etc. And I'll walk you through that as we're doing it. But just so you know, I don't want you to follow my numbers exactly in case you are using different yarn. You might need different needles too. So I have a medium 4. I'm going to be using my 5mm circular needles. And then you'll also need a threading needle and your scissors for the end. And I lost my marker. So today I'm just using this little rubber band as my marker. So same, if you don't have a marker or you lost it, just grab a rubber band or grab a paper clip or something like that, that you can just easily slip onto your needles when you need to mark your work. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm super excited to see how this turns out with this yarn. It's pretty soft and spongy, so I think it's gonna make for a really great hat, even though it's a little thinner than the other yarn that I've used. But let's go ahead and see. All right, to begin, we want to cast on an even number of stitches plus 1. So I guess you could say you need to cast on an odd number of stitches. But the plus 1 is just where we're going to connect and make the circle. So we're going to lose a stitch in doing so. But ultimately, after we drop that stitch from making the connection, you're going to actually be having an even number of stitches that you're actually working with on your hat. So I'm going to start with 90 stitches, as I said, actually 90 plus 1. And so I'm going to create a long tail, probably about almost 4 times. So this is about a foot, so almost 4 feet. That's how long my long tail. So I'm going to do a long tail cast on. If you need a refresher on how to do the long tail cast on, or you've never done it before, I'll link that video here so that you can check that out. I'll go a little slow, but if you want to review it again, that's where you can go see it. So you're just going to create a triangle here with your 2 pincher fingers, and then you're going to grab the bottom of that triangle with your 3 other fingers. You're going to then grab your needles, and you're going to go in the same direction as your fingers, and you're going to twist so that now you're in the opposite direction as your fingers. Or you can do a slip knot, pretty much same thing. This now is technically my first stitch. So this is going to be 1, and I'm going to hold on to this stitch as I add the rest, because I'm going to go under my thumb, over my pointer finger, and then through my thumb, and then pull with my thumb. And so now I've got 2 stitches. Same thing, I'm going to hold on, just going to flip my hand over, makes it a little easier if I go under my thumb, over my pointer finger, through my thumb, and then pull with that thumb. Now I've got 3 stitches. And so under, over, through, and pull. Under, over, through, and pull. Under, over, through, and pull. And so I'm gonna go ahead and cast on, like I said, 91 stitches. And I will be back and I'll show you how I just kind of double check the sizing. Also, like I said, I've not worked with this yarn specifically, so we'll see if 90 is enough. I'll let you know when I get back here. Okay, see you in a couple minutes. Okay, so I have my 91 stitches here, and what we're gonna do next, oh, let me tell you quickly how I do a estimate of a measurement is I just spread out the stitches as far as they'll go. Not super, I mean, I'm not like pulling on them, but I'm just kind of spreading them out. And then I'm using that as a way to put this around my head and make sure it fits. Because once you start knitting, these stitches are gonna be a little more spread out. It's gonna fill up. And so you can kind of get an idea of how large the hat's gonna be when you spread out the stitches a little more. So obviously if you're going for a hat that's bigger or smaller, you can measure, get a rough estimate if it's gonna be a good fit or not. Once you have your stitches on your cord here of how many that you are gonna need, what you're gonna do next is, and now this gets a little clunky, I would have to say, because this keeps curling up, this curls up on me. I have other needles where the cord is more stiff and so it doesn't curl like this. But anyways, what you're gonna do is you're gonna kind of find a halfway point. It doesn't need to be exact, but somewhere in the middle, you find this halfway point, and then you're just gonna kind of bend your cord and you're going to pull out the cord and pull the stitches onto both needles so that you kind of have this half and half split between your 2 needles. And so I'm just going to slide these on. Okay, so I have the stitches onto the needles. And what I'm gonna do next, because see how they're connected on this end, I wanna connect them on this end as well so that it completes the circle, and then I can just stitch around and around. So you're gonna have a side that has your tail and your working yarn, and then you're gonna have a side that's like open and free. So we're going to take 1 stitch, so slide it close to the edge. We're gonna take 1 stitch, the side that has the tail and the working yarn, we're gonna take that stitch and we're gonna slip it onto the other side. And then you can pull those down on that other side. Then on our side that we just slipped the stitch onto, we are going to leapfrog our second stitch over our first stitch. So we're going to, it's almost like when you do a cast off and you need to hop a stitch. That's what we're gonna do. So we're just gonna kind of get under this second stitch, and then I'm gonna leapfrog it over that first stitch that I brought from the other side, and then let it go. And then now we're connected. And you also lost that 1 stitch that you just leaped over. So now we've gone back down to an even number of stitches. Remember, we did our even +1. So now we have lost our +1 because we just leapfrogged it. Okay, so my other tip here too is to make sure that like your ridges here line up. You don't want this to be all twisted because then it just makes for your work getting twisted. My marker here. And then I'm going to slide these stitches down. And again, this is where you're going to use this cord and kind of split some of the stitches just so that it gives you a working needle. And so, you know, I might just pick right around here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm picking just another spot where I'm going to pull some cord through. There we go. So now I just kind of have this working space right here is what I'm creating by doing that. All right, so now again, I put my marker here on this side, and now I'm going to knit around and around and around. And probably the most like frustrating part of this whole process is just sliding the stitches around. Now, some people have cords that are much smaller, circular needles that are smaller, and then you don't have so much excess. So that's one way to get around it if you want to. All right, so we're going to begin by just alternating our knits and purls to create the brim on the hat. So to create this first row of roughly 7 to 10 rows, we are simply just alternating knits and purls. So I'm going to slide that down. Oops, I lost a stitch. When you're sliding, you got to make sure you don't lose a stitch. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with my knit stitch. And so we're going to go behind the needle. If you're new to knitting and you want a refresher and a slower tutorial on it, I'm going to link that video up above on how to do your knit stitch and how to do your purl stitch. But we're going to go, oops, just trying to not stay. Okay, so we're behind our needle. We're going to go around from back to front. We're going to come to the front of the needle, and then we're going to pop it off the top. And so we have our first knit stitch. Then we're going to switch to a purl. And that means we're going to bring our yarn from back to front. We're going to go in over the top. Then we're going to go around our needle from back to front. Then we're going to pop to the back of the needle and pop it off the top. So now we've done one knit stitch and one purl stitch, and now we just repeat that. So we have one knit stitch, alternate to the purl, pop it off, and just continue to alternate between our knits and purls. And if you are still working to identify the difference between your knits and purls, like let's say I were to set this work down and I want to know where I left off, then I need to be able to identify what is a knit stitch and what is a purl stitch so that I can just pick up and not mess up the pattern. I guess you have a 50-50 chance of getting it right, but let's not just guess. So if I spread out these stitches a little more, and if you look closely, there's like a little V right there. And then in the next stitch, there's a bump. And the next stitch, there's a little V here. Well, our V's are our knit stitches and our bumps are our purl stitches. So you should be seeing it go knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl all the way down. And so if I set this down, I know that I've just done a purl stitch, and so my next stitch is going to be the knit stitch. And that's what I love about this project, is that I can set it down. Rarely do I ever finish a project in one sitting, and so being able to set it down, identify my work, is just like a really important step for me. I would imagine for you too. So I'm just going to keep going around, sliding my stitches around as I need to, and until I hit my marker. And then once I hit my marker, I'm just going to repeat. And I want all my knit stitches to stack up and all my purl stitches to stack up. So they should all be in alignment. as you can see with this. See how all the V's are together, and then if you spread it, there's the bumps are in between. So V's and bumps, or knits and purls. So we're just going to alternate stacking them on top before we get to the rest of the pattern. So like I said, this hat I believe has 9 rows. I'm going to assume that this yarn, being a little thinner, might have closer to 10, possibly even 11. And so again, this is where you create it and do it how you like and what you prefer. So I'll meet you back here once I have the number of stitches that I want for my brim. All right, see you soon. All right, so I've completed the brim of my new hat here. And this, where did my needle just go? There it is. This actually ended up being 10 rows. And I just wanted to show you and compare so you could see how, you know, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right? No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. And this is 10 rows, and they're roughly the same size. They're just about 2 inches. And so again, this is a medium 4 yarn, and this was a bulky 6. So you can tell based off of your own thickness of the yarn you're using that you may do more or less stitch or rows to create a 2-inch brim. Again, you can make one shorter or taller, it's up to you, but just to give you some reference based off the thickness of the yarn. Okay, so I've completed my brim, and now I'm ready to begin the pattern of the rest of the hat. And it's just a 3-row repeat. So it's pretty simple. I absolutely love it. It creates a really cute, great pattern. So here it is. I'm going to slide my needles back in. Still got my rubber band marker here that I had to double up. All right, so I'm going to slide my needles back in. Oops. I'm gonna pick that halfway point, pull that cord out so I can slide those in real easily. And so here is the new pattern. It is simply 2 rows of just knitting, and then our 3rd row is going to be alternating knits and purls. So very simple, very easy. I like to pull out another section right here. So I've got these 2 parts out. It gives me wiggle room so that I can easily knit. All right, I'm a little tangled up here. You want to make sure you're not twisted. And there we go, I'm untangled. Oh, sorry, I'm not there yet. What happens is sometimes I get mixed up, you know, just as I'm adjusting the stitches. How you know is your working yarn is always going to be in your right hand if you're doing, you know, just regular knitting. So however you get twisted up, you set your needles down, you pick them back up, you're always going to know that your working yarn side is, that's the side that is going to be your working side. Okay, I'm just going to knit. I'm going to knit the whole way around twice, so for 2 rows. All right, so I'm going to take my marker, put it on my working side, and now I'm simply going to knit all the way around until I hit my marker. And then I'm going to do it again, all the way around, just knit before I then begin my alternating knits and purls. So very simple. Don't mind my dog barking in the background. And I'm just sliding my needles around the cord as needed. So as I'm getting further along, you can see that I'm just going to keep sliding these stitches around these cords so that I can still keep my circle. All right, so I'm gonna keep going here. Like I said, I'm gonna do 2 rows of knitting, and then I'll meet you back here when I do my alternating knits and purls for row 3. Okay, so I've completed my 2 rows of the regular knit stitch, and now I'm going to start row 3, and it's going to be alternating knits and purls. And if you've followed the pattern correctly, your first stitch should be a knit stitch and then a purl stitch. And how you know if you followed it correctly is that all your knits are going to be stacked all the way up the whole hat. So they should be in alignment. So your next stitch should be a knit stitch, and you should have a V already there and in place. And then your next one will be a purl. So I'm gonna find my halfway point, my rough halfway point. I'm gonna pull my cord through, and as I slide these stitches on, what you're also gonna find is that as your hat gets bigger, you won't need to create 2 different loops with the cord. Usually 1 is enough, because now I've got more stretch, I have more give, and therefore 1 is enough. So it becomes actually easier with the circular needles as you go. All right, so my first stitch is gonna be a knit stitch. My second stitch is gonna be a purl, and then I'm just gonna alternate that all the way across for this entire row. And then it's a repeat. And then I start over and I do 2 rows of knits, and then alternating once again. And again, how you know where you are is just simply by looking at the stitches. I can see that I have all my knit stitches are all lined up in this row here. And then I have a purl here. So I know the pattern is gonna be purl, knit, knit, purl, knit, knit, purl, knit, knit, purl. So as your hat gets taller and taller, you're going to easily be able to know where you are in the pattern and where you then need to pick up where you left off. Easy peasy. That's the way I like it. So I'm gonna keep going here. I'll meet you back here in just a little bit. I'm planning to make this hat roughly 8 to 9 inches long before I cinch it in at the top and put the pom-pom on. So again, you can decide how long you want your hat to be, but that's the length that I'm going for. And so I'm just gonna keep going until I reach that point. Okay, see you in a little bit. So I now have completed my 8 inches of how tall I want the hat to be. And so now I'm gonna begin on just creating more of the crown of the hat by tapering it in a little bit at the top before I put the pom-pom on. Now, I did decide, because this gradient yarn, it didn't get as light as I had planned with this white pom-pom. I'm actually gonna save this for another hat, and then I decided to go with this gray pom-pom on top instead. So, but before I put that on, I want to create more of a crown and taper it in at the top. So what you wanna do is make sure that you've just ended a row 3, because we wanna begin on the row 1 and 2, which are the full knit rows, to get started on the taper. Okay, so I'm gonna put my marker on, and now I'm going to do a knit 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then now I'm gonna knit 2 together, and that's gonna begin a decrease. And so to decrease, I'm just gonna kind of create like as if this was like a big fat stitch. So I'm gonna kind of squish these 2 stitches together and knit these 2 as if it was 1. So I'm just gonna slide in behind there and knit those 2 as if it was 1. Now, Sometimes it's a little tight. It can be a little tight because obviously you are knitting two together. And so that way I just like to kind of push my stitches all the way to the top, hold on to them though so they don't slide off, and then I can very easily knit those two together. So again, we're just knitting 4 and then knitting 2 together. And then we're just going to do that going all the way around to begin this decrease. So I'm going to go ahead and finish going all the way around, and then I'll meet you right back here to go over the next row. All right, so I completed the first decrease row. Now I'm going to continue, but I'm going to create an even more drastic decrease. So instead of knitting 4 and then knit 2 together, I'm going to knit 2 and then knit 2 together. So 1, 2, and now I will knit 2 together. And then I will repeat that all the way around. So knit 2, 1, 2, and then knit 2 together. So I just completed that second row of decreasing, and now I'm on to my third row of decreasing. And this row we are going to decrease even more drastically. And so now we're going to do a knit 1, a knit 2 together. So it's basically every other that we're going to knit 2 together. So knit 1, knit 2 together. I can get my needle under there. There we go. Knit 1, knit 2 together. Knit 1, and all the way around. And as you're doing this, you're going to start to see, it kind of create that curve as you're decreasing your stitches. And that's exactly what we want to have happen. We want to start to see that top crown be formed on the hat before we attach the pom-pom. So I'm just going to go all the way around here, knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, repeating all the way until the end. All right, I'll see you back here in a couple minutes. And once you complete that, we're going to do that one more time. So we're moving our marker over, and we're going to do another knit 1, knit 2 together all the way around to just bring in this crown of the hat just a little bit more. So knit 1, knit 2. I'm just going to slide these stitches. Now you'll find you're sliding stitches around your cord a little more frequently because you've got fewer stitches. So knit 1, slide those stitches, knit 2, knit 1, and we're going to do that all the way around. So that is our fourth decreasing row. Once you complete that fourth row of decreasing, now you're ready to cast off and cinch the top of the hat and put our pom-pom on. So how we're going to cast off is very simple. We just need a bit of a tail. So I would say this is probably about 2 feet of tail, because we're going to use that to sew the pom-pom on. So I'm just going to get about 2 feet, get my threading needle. And how I'm going to cast off is I'm going to slide my needle through these remaining stitches. And so I do need to slide them back onto my needle. And I'm just going to cast off a couple at a time. Once you get a little bit more comfortable, you can slide off more. But here, so I've got 3. I'm just going to slide those off and then pull the rest of my yarn through. And do 3 more. And once you have your final stitch, you can remove your needle. And now you can see you have it secured all the way around with that yarn. And now you simply can cinch the rest of the top and it brings it all together. Now you want to make sure you cinch it pretty tight. There's a teeny tiny hole at the top, and so the tighter you cinch it, the more it just disappears. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to close that hole. Well, actually, before you close that hole, you want to find out how you're securing your pom-pom to the top. Now, a lot of pom-poms, they'll have like this loop that you can just feed through the top of the hat and then secure it that way. There are some that have like snap-on buttons and, you know, different ways to secure it. So I'm actually going to feed my needle through the loop so that I have a connection with it. And I'm going to grab on through the bottom of the hat. I'm going to grab onto that loop just so that I can secure it. So now I just want to kind of go back and forth a few times to just secure. Whoa, did you hear that thunder? I just want to secure and close up this hole. So it's a little interesting with the pom-pom in the way, but you just work around it. Just want to secure both sides. You want it to be even so that your hat, your pom-pom, it is in the center. So you're just kind of digging in there. You're finding where that hole used to be, and you're just going across. Let me see if I can get a better. So you're just going from one side of the hole to the other side and pulling it through. And underneath here, all I'm doing is I have a hold of the pom-pom because I don't want to lose my grip with that. But I do want to be able to see to make sure I've closed up that hole. So just run through that a couple of times. And now I'm going to just place this needle through the center to the inside of the hat. And pull on that. And now I'm just gonna weave this. I like my pom-poms to be like sturdy. Some people like them real like wobbly and floppy. And if you like that, I would say then just let it go and it'll be more of a floppy hat. But I like mine a little more snug. So I'm actually going to kind of knit it to the top of the hat so that there's not much give in it and that it's a little tighter secure to the top. So I'm just kind of stretching it out so that it is securely in there. Just going around it a couple of times here. Until I feel really good about it. And so just go around until you're liking of security. I like to just go a few extra times around. It's just kind of a habit of mine. I like to just make sure things aren't gonna fall off. Now you can just simply knot it off and just find another loop where you can create a knot with it. And so I'm gonna go into my knot like that and then just pull. I'm gonna do it one more time. Make sure it's nice and secure. Find another loop. Make that knot. Give it a nice tug. Make sure it's nice and secure. And then you can either cut it right at that or you can just weave it just a little bit and then cut it. So I'm just gonna do a little weave. It's not going anywhere. I guess I just always like to hide a knot. So just weaving that in there a couple of times. And now I'm going to cut it. And there we go. Pom Pom is secure. I absolutely love how this turned out. It's so cute, so fluffy. And so the last thing we need to do is just weave in this end at the bottom. So I'm just going to simply get my thread on that tail. And now I'm just gonna find the pattern of that knit stitch, and I'm just gonna kind of follow it so that, let me just make sure I'm just gonna come in this way, and I'm just gonna simply follow this knit stitch pattern right here. And I'm just going to create one little knot. I don't want to pull that too tight though, because I don't want that to cinch up that side. There we go. I'm just going to trim that. And now we are officially done. Woo! I love it. Look at that pom pom. Look at that jumbo pom pom. Okay, success. If you liked this tutorial on how to make a hat, be sure to like it, subscribe, and check out some of the other work that I've posted. All right, thanks for being here. Bye-bye.